right. We are live. We're live. My name is Jerron Tyler, founder of Posterity.ai, a business credit platform that causes entrepreneurs to fund themselves. And it also gives you real-time intelligence 24/7. Even better, you can try today for just 7 days, absolutely free. Needless to say, this video, I want to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I want to go through 9 of the biggest takeaways from the book that I wrote a year ago. I wrote a book called 100K in one day. As you guys can see, it's right behind me, 100K in one day. And for those of you guys who don't know, by the grace of God, I was able to amass over $1 million, not for my clients, my friends or family, but for myself. We've been able to do a lot with our clients, friends, and family, but I also like to speak from a place of actually being a practitioner of what I do. And so with that being said, I've been able to amass that. Since then, I've become maniacal, very obsessive, if you will, about going deep into this information that I may be able to share it with other entrepreneurs all over the country. And so with that being said, I have 9 major takeaways from the book that I want to go through really quickly with you guys that I believe will be a great help to you on your funding journey. And so the first one is this principle or this discipline that I operate off of, and that's no strategy, no spend. That's number 1. No strategy, no spend. This has a lot to do with money management. It has a lot to do with discernment. It has a lot to do with understanding your returns. There are a lot of things that you should not be spending your money on if you have not mapped out a strategy of return. So many people go out and get approved, and it's a blessing to get approved for $75,000, $100,000, $300,000. But if you don't have a proper strategy to bring that money back, that you can actually articulate how you're going to do it. Now, there are certain things like business licenses, or if you need to pay for more fulfillment for your company, right? You're just starting out and you're paying for your LLC. Those are some things. But when you begin going into the deeper things, like we're going to go buy, 5 cars, we're going to go buy a fleet of cars, we're going to go buy an actual building that we might be able to do business out of, we're going to go out and spend $75,000 on marketing. My question to you, Mr. and Mrs. Entrepreneur, are you even able to articulate how you're going to get a return? Now, obviously, in business, we're all taking risks. We're all gambling. We're all going through trial and error. But at bare minimum, can you articulate how I'm going to get this money back? If you can't speak out of your mouth as the leader, as the one that went out and got the money, if you can't speak out of your mouth how you're going to get a return, I would venture to say it would be a bad investment. Number 2, quarterly funding potential. Now, what does this mean? Quarterly funding potential. As a leader, I highly recommend that the leader sit down at least once a quarter, every 3 months, and figure out what the potential is for funding for that company. You may not even need funding, but the worst time to try to get it is when you need it. I went to a workshop one time and a guy said something that was so incredible. I love this concept. He said, I'm not into the grant space. I do direct personal guarantor and non-PG funding, lines of credit, loans, and things like that. I'm not really in the grant space, but I love the concept that he said. He said, there's free money out here, right? Everybody said yes. He said, well, wouldn't it make sense if you spent 5 hours per month applying for free money? And I thought, wow, what an incredible concept. I recently posted on Threads. A lot of people think that you need a million ideas. You really only need one idea to go from A to Z, to optimize your business and take your business to the next level. And so every part 2 of what I'm talking about is having a moment in time where you really sit down every single quarter, whether it's with an advisor, whether it's with your team, whether it's with your CFO, whether it's with yourself, with you navigating what is the next step? How can we go get some more money going into next quarter? How can we get approved for another $50,000, $75,000 by December? Your number may be $5,000, but you never want to stop growing. We do not believe in a gray area or staying stuck. It's either you're growing or decaying, and as a leader, everything rises and falls on you. Number 3 is you want to have at least 5 to 8 positive personal accounts. 5 to 8 positive personal accounts. That means accounts without blemish. That means accounts without late payments in the last 24 months. That means you have a personal credit report without collections and charge-offs and a foreclosure. That means you have healthy accounts, whether they be credit cards, personal lines of credit, loans, auto loans, a home loan. It could be 3 home loans, but you want to have 5 to 8. This puts you in an optimal position for you to go out and get exactly what I talk about in the book, $100,000 in just a day. That's just 4 banks getting approved for $25,000. But you gotta be set up properly. You gotta be in a position where you are strong, where you are mature, where a bank can see that this person can handle that type of money. Number 4 is understanding the sweet spot of inquiries. Now, each bureau has their own capacity for inquiries. So you got TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, okay? The sweet spot for inquiries is 3. You don't wanna have more than 3. We've gotten people approved, and I've even seen people get approved with more than 3 inquiries. But you start to make your approval process 10 times more tough. You want your credit bureau to have 1 inquiry, 2 inquiries, 3 inquiries, or no inquiries prior to going in to get the funding. Part 5, credit scores are not all that matter. We've had people that have had 780 credit scores, 800 credit scores, but guess what? They only had an authorized user account from their dad, an authorized user account from their mother, an authorized user account from their sister, and they don't have anything else on their credit report. Well, if you don't have anything else on your report and all you have is an authorized account, how can I trust that you are going to be responsible enough to handle a $25,000 credit card? How am I going to trust that you're responsible enough to handle a $40,000 credit card? And so again, credit scores alone are not all that it takes. You want to make sure that you have a mature credit profile. You need to go get your own credit cards, which we call primary user accounts. You want to go get your own personal loan. You want to get your own actual auto loan. This right here strengthens your credit profile. Number 6, I call it 7 numbers are heaven numbers. There are 7 numbers that every business owner should be aware of. I don't care if you just starting out. I don't care if you up 500,000. I don't care if you up 500 million. There are 7 numbers that every business owner should know. That is their personal phone number. That is their business phone number. That is their Dun and Bradstreet number. That is the amount or the number of employees that they have. That is the number of their projection by which they're going to make that year. The next one is going to be their EIN. You have to be locked in with your EIN. That is like your social security number for your business. And very lastly, number 7, you need to be aware of your NAICS code. It stands for North American Industry Classification. What it does is it puts you in a space and puts you in a situation where you're able to now be identified by the banks and by the IRS. Every industry has a code. The trucking industry has a code. Real estate has a code. Consulting has a code. Gambling, alcohol, liquor has a code. Clothing has a code. For those who do podcasting, for those who rent vehicles, they have a code. Medical industry, chiropractors, dentistry, they all have a code. Barbering, everybody has a code. And so there are 7, I repeat, 7, I call it inside of the book, 7 numbers are heaven numbers because there are 7 numbers that every business owner should at least know about. All right, we also have here for our next one. Where there is no foundation, there is no success. When you begin looking at a house, I don't care how beautiful the house is, how gorgeous the house is, how elegant the house is. We got granite countertops. We got all this ambient lighting. We got everything we want in the house, but the house don't have no foundation, right? This is what you want to be locked in and focused on when you start building your business out. Now, obviously, I just gave you 7 numbers, but there are other components that we'll talk about another time that you absolutely must have to go in for optimal approval. Next one, and we got 2 more, but I'm gonna save the best for last. So this next one is 90% of banks are going to pull from one of the 3 major credit bureaus when you start talking about personally guaranteeing funding. They're either going to pull from TransUnion, Equifax, or Experian. For me, being a funder, being an entrepreneur, I highly recommend that you guys know exactly what your credit scores are, that you know exactly how many inquiries you have, that you know everything that there is to know about your personal credit profile, because this is where the banking institutions are going to go and get their information. All right, now, very lastly, man, you guys won't want to miss this. I'm excited about this. This is not anything that you would find online. This is my own personal revelation, understanding by way of me going to meet with thousands and thousands of banking institutions. And so with that being said, I'm gonna actually read them off because I wrote them down. There are 4 things that I want you to go and do after this video. I want you to go and do it after this video. The first one is, the instruction or assignment is, I want you to go out and build 4 lists of banks that you can apply to. The first place I want you to go is, I want you to go to ibanknet.com. When you go on ibanknet.com, there'll be a large amount of itemized banks that you can choose from. You can see the bank's assets. You can see the bank's profit and loss statements. You can see the #1 banks in the country. You can go and look at everything internally about the bank. The reason I like to do that is because when I see banks that have large capacities, oftentimes because they have so many bank deposits, they can oftentimes lend a lot more, or 10 times more than a community bank or regional bank, if you will. The next one is, I want you to go and begin making a list of all of the banks that you actually go and drive by every day. If you're somebody that lives in California, if you live in the DMV, if you live in Illinois, if you live in Florida, if you live in Texas, New York, there are so many small pockets of banks that you have access to because you're right in the jurisdiction that somebody like myself or somebody all the way across the country may not even have access to unless they go create a foreign entity. But even then, that can be a lot. And so with that being said, I want you to, number 2 out of the 4, I want you to make a list of the banks that you can actually see. I said at one of my workshops one time, and I coined this phrase, if you can see the bank with your natural eye, then you can apply. If you can walk into it, if you can touch it, if you can actually see it, then that is a bank that you have access to. The very next one is, I want you to go out, write down lists of banks that you've had incredible relationships with. We love to do business with people that love to do business with us, and the adage also rests in the banking system. If I've seen that Jessica, John, Brittany, Terrell, Eric, if I've seen you guys in our database and you've had experience with us for the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 20 years, what would be the barrier for me to give you another 30,000? What would be the barrier for me to give you another 50,000 or 100,000? So you guys want to make sure that you're making a list of all of the banks that you've had great relationships with. Now, very lastly, you want to go to posterity.ai. As I mentioned to you guys in the beginning of the video, the software gives you real-time intelligence based on the information that you've put inside of the system. That is another place where you can go in and you can build a list based on the recommendations that the software gives you. Man, thank you guys for tapping in. I appreciate you. I can't wait to get back on here and talk to you some more. Man, have a blessed one on purpose. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.